receiving us with so much love. I come from India where the left, where progressive people have a great love for Comandante Chavez, for the Bolivarian revolution. We see it in many ways as an example, as a model, as an inspiration. So for me, for my comrades, it's a great honor to be here. We work in the news industry, and news is often a very depressing thing. So coming to Venezuela is like coming home. It's like coming to home base where you feel refreshed and energized. And so thank you very much. I wanted to start by an interesting, or rather an unbelievable thing about capitalism. It is that capitalism tries its best to tell us that it's just an economic system. Capitalism tries its best to tell us that it's all about markets, it's all about mathematics, it's all about free trade, rational choices. Capitalism does its best to tell us that it is anything but the dictatorship of the bourgeoisie. And which is why, as far as capitalist media is concerned, every day of capitalist media's existence is a war on the people. And I think when we're talking about media, when we're talking about communications, this is where we start. Every day of capitalist media's existence is a war on the people of the world. Now, there are various kinds of wars. It's not all the same. There is the everyday war, what we call the everyday war of coverage. What is this everyday war of coverage by the capitalist media? It's as simple as things of style. In the capitalist media, the people are always somehow either they're angry. They're always either making very angry faces, they're shouting, there's always negativity associated with the mass of the people in the capitalist media. Or in the capitalist media, people are just individuals. They are one person that the TV channel speaks to during an election. They are one person that the TV channel might speak to during a protest. They are never a group. They are never an organized force. They are never a collective. So as far as capitalist media is concerned, in its style, it is anti-people. And then let's take the next stage of this war, which is the war of erasing. Very, very simple examples. Recently, there was an earthquake in Syria and Turkey. We know that the people of Venezuela have been suffering for years due to the nature of sanctions on them. But yet, Venezuelan doctors, Venezuelan experts were there in Syria to assist the people. They were there in Turkey to assist the people. Who wrote about it? Nobody. During the pandemic, Cuba's Henry Reeve Brigade went to a number of countries. How many media organizations wrote about it? Nobody. This war of erasing by the media, where our struggles, our projects, the comrades in the morning talked about the communes here. Where can we read about these communes in the capitalist media? There is no way of reading about them. So this war of erasure, of erasing our achievements, our struggles, our dreams, is the second stage of the war that capitalist media wages against us. What is the third stage? The third stage is of focus. I come from India, where a very senior journalist, P. Sainath, once said a very simple fact, that in the city of Mumbai, which is one of India's biggest cities, 300 journalists were there to cover a fashion week. Whereas 100 kilometers away, farmers were committing suicide, but there was nobody to write about them. The war of focus is the third kind of war that capitalist media wages on us, because it decides for us what is important to focus on. It decides for us what stories it wants to tell, what comes on the front page, what comes on the 9 o'clock TV channel. Stories of, creating hate, creating fake news, all that. That war of focus is the third stage of the war. And it's very important to remember this is connected to who owns the media. In India, the richest man in India is one of the biggest TV channel owners in the country. The second richest man in India bought the TV channel which was critical of the government just a few months ago. So India is one country. It's very similar in Brazil. It's very similar in the United States. In all major countries, we have media being taken over by a few people. And that is the reason for this war of focus. But there's a final stage of this war, which is when our alternatives grow strong, when we say that we will not accept defeat, when the Cuban revolutionary process continues, when the Venezuelan revolutionary process continues, the capitalist media takes out all its weapons. That stage of attacking the possibility of any alternative. I'll again give you an example from my own country. From 2020 to 2021, the farmers of India were on strike. For 1 year, they sat around the capital, New Delhi. Thousands of farmers sitting in protest. They set up camps. They organized libraries. They set up hospitals. There were cultural performances. They wanted the government to withdraw laws which would destroy their livelihood. For 1 year, these farmers protested. And what did the Indian media do? The Indian media said that these farmers were anti-national. They said that these farmers were terrorists. They said that these farmers, were maybe too rich. They didn't have enough work. Every single possible, and this is of course one protest in India, but like I said, we've seen this across the world. When Venezuelan gold is seized in banks in the UK, the media does not cover it as an attack on Venezuela's sovereignty. The media writes about it as though it's some kind of legal case. Some court is dealing with some legal case. We all know that sanctions are war. We all know that sanctions kill. But does the media, capitalist media, write about sanctions as war? Does the capitalist media recognize that the United States is waging war on Venezuela? The answer is no. What the capitalist media does is it takes terms like freedom, democracy, rights, these words which all of us, our comrades, have fought for decades. It takes these words and twists them and make them something else. So this today is really, what the capitalist media does, the various kinds of wars they're in. And I think for all of us, the questions over the years have been what to do about it. And what we do, I work with an organization called People's Dispatch. We're a global media organization. We work closely with communications professionals, journalists across the world, many of whom are here. We work closely with people's movements. And what our learning has been very simple. That in order to defeat these wars, that in order to defeat these attacks, our journalism of hope must be based on two aspects. Aspect number one, our journalism of hope must be based on struggle. Emphasizing the fact that struggle is what pushes society forward. The struggles of millions of people is what brings us progress. Capitalist media would like you to believe that struggle is outside society. Capitalist media would like you to believe that struggle is some angry people, making some noise when they're angry, when they come, make some noise, go back. But we know that that is not what struggle is. We know that struggle is built every day. Struggle is built every month. Struggle is built every year. And it is these struggles that carry society forward. So any progressive radical media must have at its core this understanding. It must focus on bringing these struggles to the center stage, to the forefront, and not just when there is a protest. We do not believe that struggles, we should write about struggles only when 10,000 people are on the streets. Before the 10,000 people came to the streets, people mobilized for months. Before landless workers took over a plot, people mobilized for months. The communes worked for years here before they reached agreement, before they reached more steps of action. These processes need to be covered. You were talking in the beginning about Comandante Chavez and the idea of the epic memory. What neoliberalism, what capitalism tries to do is to break down that memory, make it about each day, make it about each individual, make us disconnected. But it is through struggle that we understand what this epic memory is. And that has to be the core of any people's media, in the, which is what we're trying to build, which is what I think organizations across the world are trying to build. The second aspect must be to concretely help people understand what imperialism is today. There is a huge misunderstanding across the world of what imperialism is, of what its impact is. Even people sympathetic to us, even people who are progressive, have taken wrong understandings of imperialism, and therefore that has a huge problem in how we progress. Combating imperialism, providing a clear understanding of imperialism, providing a point of action against imperialism is also one of the key responsibilities of media organizations across the world. So, in general, we have this saying that every militant is a communicator. We try not to have this understanding that there is this one core group called journalists who have authority, who have the right to speak about everything. We try to build this idea that every militant, every person, every comrade working in a revolutionary process is by default a communicator, has the ability to tell those stories of struggle, those stories of epic memory, and can take forward that revolutionary process through their communication activities as well. So I'd like to conclude with that. Thank you once again, all of you, for having me, for the opportunity to visit Venezuela again. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias a ti, hermano Rayan. Vamos ahora a dar la palabra a Tania Díaz, quien tiene una gran experiencia en la comunicación política en nuestro país, como ha sido jefa de diferentes misiones comunicacionales, es periodista y hoy tiene la inmensa tarea también de la formación ideológica. Bienvenida, Tania.
Gracias. ¡Que viva Chávez! Qué bonita reunión, vale, qué bonito reencuentro. Mirando esta sala llena de los amigos y las amigas de Chávez, uno se remite al aló presidente, ¿no? Porque si vamos a hablar de comunicación, hay que hablar de ese programa tan extenso, él mismo decía, tan nutrido, donde se cantaba, se contaban anécdotas, se hablaba de historia, se hablaba de comida, se hablaba de la cultura, de la partida física del comandante. Si estamos aquí todas y todos, si vinimos desde distintas latitudes, también vinimos a renovar nuestra fe. También vinimos a encontrarnos como hermanas y hermanos en Chávez y vinimos a ratificar certezas, creencias que, como ha salido en la conversación de toda esta primera parte de la conmemoración de los 10 años de la partida física del comandante Chávez, conducen a lo colectivo. Yo creo que si vamos a hablar de comunicación chavista y vamos a poner eso en el centro del debate, en este mundo desquiciado y violento, amenazante en el que estamos viviendo, lo dijo Ana Caón aquí, lo dijo Joao Pedro,